After leaving my old job, I finally feel free to share this story. I used to drive trucks, and the job was one where following all the rules to the letter would make it nearly impossible to get things done. We had to sign a lot of paperwork saying we would do things a certain way, but in reality, those rules were often ignored to make our work easier and more efficient. The paperwork was mainly there to protect the company from any legal trouble. For example, we might skip some minor safety steps to save time, but we weren't doing anything extremely dangerous. However, things changed when the company suddenly started enforcing every single policy. The most frustrating part was that you never knew which policy they would decide to enforce until you were called in to see a manager and told you were being put on a performance review. This was often because they had caught you on CCTV breaking some rule. To make matters worse, the supervisors would report you for minor infractions, but then the next day they would ask you to do something much more dangerous and against company policy. For instance, you might get reported and put on performance review for leaving your keys in the truck for a few minutes, but then a couple of days later, you'd be expected to use a tail lift in a public area with people walking underneath it while lifting a 1-ton pallet. The company policy clearly stated that tail lifts should only be used outside of store opening hours, but that rule was conveniently ignored when it suited them. Frustrated by this inconsistent enforcement of rules, I decided to follow the rules exactly as they were written. This change increased my daily working hours from around 10 to about 12 or 13. My ultimate act of defiance came when the company decided that all personal protective equipment, PPE, had to be signed out by upper management. Previously, there was a cupboard full of gloves, high-vis jackets, and most importantly for this story, steel-toe cap boots. If you need something, ask a supervisor and get it within a few minutes. One Friday, I noticed that my boots were broken. The sole was separating from the rest of the boot. I told my wife on Saturday morning that I would probably be coming home early because I knew upper management, who were the only ones authorized to issue new PPE, only worked Monday to Friday. When I got to work, I showed the broken boots to the supervisors and the manager on duty. They tried for about an hour to find me a replacement, but eventually told me I would have to go home without pay. I stood my ground and told them that I had shown up for work and was willing to work, but it was the company's responsibility to provide PPE. It wasn't my fault if they couldn't supply it. After some back and forth, the manager called someone in the legal department. He returned and informed me that I would be sent home for the weekend with full pay and I would get new boots on Monday. This was a small victory for me, and I found it quite amusing. One of the supervisors had even suggested that I tape up my broken boot, and he threatened to report me to upper management if I didn't comply. I filed a grievance about this conversation, and the supervisor was suspended from duties involving other staff members. Before the company started getting petty, I would have just left for work 30 minutes early on a Saturday, bought some cheap boots on my way, and gotten on with my day. But by this point, any goodwill I had towards the company was gone. I simply didn't care anymore. That weekend, I had a nice break, enjoying the time off with full pay. The whole situation was a clear example of how enforcing every little rule without any common sense or flexibility can backfire. It turned a simple issue into a bigger problem and made me lose any remaining respect for the company. By sticking rigidly to their rules and not considering the practicalities of the job, they not only inconvenienced me but also made the workplace environment more stressful and less efficient for everyone involved. In the end, it was a valuable lesson in how not to manage a workforce. Treating employees fairly, with some degree of flexibility and understanding, can go a long way in maintaining morale and productivity. Instead, by enforcing rules arbitrarily and without consideration for the realities of the job, the company only succeeded in creating a more hostile and inefficient work environment. My experience is a testament to the importance of balancing policy enforcement with practical, real-world understanding and respect for the employees who are on the front lines doing the actual work.